Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Wait, take.
Throw. End zone. Caught. Terrence Williams. Touchdown, Cowboys. Tony Romo.
They go for the shotgun. Roger looks left. Fires it out there. Caught by Tony Hill. Touchdown, Cowboys.
15 to the 10, he'll score. Emmitt Smith dances to the end zone. The Cowboys have taken a 2-score lead.
Play fake to throw it out of the end zone.
Going way down the field for Michael Irvin, bumping and grinding at the 5. Oh, he's got it. Touchdown, Cowboys.
Over the middle, caught by Witten, who loses his helmet but still keeps going. A penalty. All the pressure on the left side. He drops the ball, throws, caught, Witten. Touchdown.
Big opening for Tony Dorsett. Look out, he's got great speed.
99 yards and a half.
Dorsett down the sideline. Stays in bounds.
Can you believe that?
Short because they're 99 yards.
Prescott able to get out of the end zone and now airs it out for Lamb. He's got it. He's gone. When he gets there, it's a touchdown, Cowboys. On top.
You want to know what an all-pro looks like? Watch Michael Irvin here. He'll battle you all the way down the field.
Motion on first down, Aikman. Harper. Was that beautiful? Touchdown, Dallas. Men on the rush. Pass is caught. Deflection. Touchdown. Cowboys win. Amari Cooper.
Throws it down the field. It's caught at the 10. And this game is over. The Cowboys win it. C.D. Lamb.
But no. But you understand, we do have one game left to play. Hey, fantastic. Every single one of you. I mean, I'm not just talking about these last 60 minutes. I'm talking about the quarterback schools, the mini camp, the off-season, the training camp, down in Austin when it was hot and you were tired, the whole bit. Everybody, you did one hell of a job. And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
What is up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome to another episode of Sons of the Star. I am your host, Dallas. Joining me again, as always, is Cowboy Reg. What's going on, Cowboy Reg? Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. How about, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I got some, we had some technical issues here when you hadn't joined us yet, Cowboy Reg. So that's the last time I ever try and talk without you on the podcast because it did not go over well. But you're here now, and that's all that matters. Welcome back. It's been a couple weeks or so since we've done a live show. Happy 4th of July to everybody. It's a couple days after 4th of July. We're here on July 6th, 2024. We're about 2.5 weeks until the Cowboys report to training camp in Oxnard, California. Is that how you say it?
I believe so. Hey, sounds good to me. We'll go with it.
Yeah, Oxnard, California. And we are about 6 weeks until game 1 of the preseason. So we're getting there. But it's the dog days of summer right now. It's hot as hell outside. There's no football. All we have is just like middle of the season baseball. There's like some soccer tournaments going on that I don't care about. The U.S. sucks at soccer. They already lost. So what's been going on, Cowboy Reg? I mean, what's going on? Is there anything to be excited about in Cowboys Nation, or is this are we just what do we have to talk about today?
Dark times, man. Everything's doom and gloom. When you go on social media, it's doom and gloom. You know, we don't have any of our big three signed that are supposed to be signed before the season starts. So we're waiting on that. We got Dak walking around in a boot. You know, we got the typical, Jerry Jones hoopla going on with, people criticizing his lack of movement. So, yeah, it's all doom and gloom in Cowboys Nation, but we're holding strong here at Sons of the Star, keeping the faith that these signings are going to happen before week 1, and we're going to right this ship. But, man, every day goes by, it gets a little bit more concerning. I'm not going to lie. We've sat here 6-8 weeks ago talking about, well, by the time this airs, they'll probably have CD signed or Dak signed, and here we are. Another week goes, and our boys aren't signed. So I'm sure we got to talk about that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna talk about CeeDee Lamb. I don't really have in the notes to talk about the Dak contract because I've kind of given up on that. I don't think it's happening until the end of next year. So, like we said before, why sign him now? We might have
Not at this
another
point.
quarterback. We might have a different quarterback extension before we even get to Dak Prescott. Maybe they might sign Trey Lance to a little extension before they get to Dak Prescott. No?
No, I mean, I believe that they already declined that 5th-year option or whatever came up. So I don't think that's happening. However, if he goes and lights things up a little bit in the preseason, I know it's just preseason, and he looks like he could be a future starter, whether it be this year, next year, or whatever contract that Dak signs, if he signs one, he might get an agent to say, look, I'm not going out there on a last year deal. Look what I just did in the preseason. Teams are going to want me. So they might, Jerry might be in trouble here. He might have to sign some people and pay some people, and you're going to have to get the cap boy and his calculator out and figure out how we're going to get all these guys under the cap. But I'm going to slow my roll on Trey Lance. I'm not predicting anything crazy, but it is something to think about. They definitely indicated that he will be the starter in the preseason, not Cooper Rush. So what do you think that's all about, Dallas? You think, that's just a dog and pony show, or do you think there's something to it? I think there's something to it.
Yeah, the Trey Lance situation is very interesting. He's a good tool to have on your team as of now. But I think it's really hard to tell. I mean, I think we'll see a lot in the preseason. How many snaps? I think Trey Lance will get more snaps than Cooper Rush, but it's all about like how many more snaps is he going to get than Cooper Rush? Like Cooper Rush already knows the offense, but if
all of them,
Lance is just
all of them,
100%, 100.
I think
Yeah,
he's. I don't even know if Cooper Rush should come in. I mean, maybe they'll, they're probably going to have some sort of 3rd or 4th QB in training camp. We'll probably throw him in there, but Cooper Rush doesn't have anything left to prove. Dak doesn't have anything left to prove. We know who both of those guys are. So I don't know why you would do anything but play Trey the entire game, at least until the 4th quarter or deep into the 4th quarter. You got to figure out what you got with this guy, and you can't figure it out with him holding the clipboard. So I expect him to play, well into the second half, into the 4th quarter before they yank him. That win or lose, if he throws 5 picks a game, you accomplish what you set out to accomplish. We got to figure out what he's all about and what he's got. And listeners, if you want to say, well, we know what he's got. We saw him in San Francisco. If you watch this show, you'll realize how passionate I am about this subject. He was 20 years old when he started games in San Francisco. He's 20 years old, Now he just turned 23, 24, right? He just had a birthday, 24.
yeah.
He's still younger than the majority of the quarterbacks drafted in the 1st round of the NFL draft. So we got to figure out what this guy's got. Once we figure out what he's got with a star on his helmet in a preseason game, several games, whatever, then we can make judgment on Trey Lance. Until then, I don't want to hear any Trey Lance hate. I don't want to hear any Trey Lance hype. All I'm saying is I'm neutral on the subject. I'm open-minded. I want to see what the guy's got. And I can't wait. I can't wait for the preseason because it'll actually mean something this year. Not win or loss means something, but it'll mean something to evaluate some players. And we got a lot of rookies coming in that are going to have to start. They're going to have to play in the preseason, right? You're going to say,
Yeah.
This guy's going
They have to.
Tyler Guyton or Brock Hoffman or BB, these guys might be starters. You're not going to rest them. They're rookies. Got to play them. So this preseason is going to be interesting. I'm fired up for the preseason.
As you should be. And the thing about Trey Lance so interesting is like every route you take with him is like a different way this can end up for the Cowboys. Like, do you want him to it really starts in training camp. Like if he starts really balling out in training camp and has a really good preseason, I mean, what do you do with him? Do you look to trade him? I think it also depends on how well the team does this year. But do you look to deal him at the? I don't know if you really deal him at the deadline though, because a quarterback's not someone you would send to a team unless
Never
someone
know.
unless someone gets hurt during the year.
Yeah.
But man, if he balls out and has really good preseason, like obviously he's going to be on your team the entire year. But when it comes to free agency next year, since they declined his 5th-year option, he can just really go sign with anybody. So if that's the case, you didn't really get anything out of him other than, let's say he has a really good preseason. Dak plays a full year. He enters free agency next year, signs with a new team. Dak gets his contract. Well, it was kind of a waste. So you think that they're trying to get more out of it than that. So I guess which leads me to my next point is, yeah, Dak Prescott was seen in a walking boot while he was on vacation with his girlfriend and daughter, I think, down in Mexico on that same ankle that he injured back in 2020. So a little concerning, but it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, I think when you have that bad of an injury, like those things can flare up again, and it's probably pretty precautionary. Like I think they came out and said today or yesterday that he's already out of the walking boot again, so really nothing to worry about. But I kind of wanted to pose a question for you, Cowboy Reg. Do you think that Dak Prescott can play a full season this year without getting hurt after dealing with no injuries last year?
Yeah, I don't think Dak is injury prone. If you look at that severe injury he had, any player in the league that was put in that situation, their ankle was going to break. It was what do we call that tackle now? They made it hip tackle. It's now illegal
the
tackle.
hip drop.
Hip drop tackle. Yeah, it's an illegal tackle now. That's controversy, but it is what it is. It's an illegal tackle. It's like the horse collar used to be legal and now it's not. So I don't think he's injury prone. He did have that tweak, I think with a shoulder or elbow, something. What was it after the Patriots game 2 seasons ago? I was out in Vegas watching that game in a casino. I remember recording the reaction when they won in overtime, and then Dak was out for 2 weeks. I can't remember what that injury was, but yeah, and here's the thing. Let me back it up a little bit. If they don't sign Dak and Trey balls out, you got to sign Trey. I mean, if you don't sign Dak and you don't sign Trey, and you go, through the season, you have no future at all. I mean, are you gonna re-sign Cooper Rush? Is that the future? So, I mean, you pose an interesting question. I didn't see that one coming. Do you sign Trey Lance if you don't sign Dak? Does that give you leverage to sign Dak for a more team-friendly contract? Right now, there's no leverage on the Cowboys side. They got a Trey Lance contract expiring, and you got Dak Prescott's contract expiring. And I believe that Cooper Rush is on his last year of his deal. So what's the future of quarterback? I think the preseason is going to tell us everything about the future. If Trey Lance goes out there and lays an egg, I mean, they're going to open their pocketbook and sign Dak, I would think. I mean, you can't play the whole season with no future quarterback, because if the Cowboys are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs at one point, who wants to play? Dak's not going. I'm not getting hurt. I got to go somewhere else. I'm going to be a free agent. Trey Lance, I'm not going to play. I'm going to be a free agent. I'm a young man. I'm 24. I got a future. I can't go out there. So they got problems, man. And as I'm saying, it's a tough situation right now being a Cowboys fan, because we're in limbo. We don't know what the future is. We know what we got this year, and it's a talented roster. Now, I don't care what the media or anybody says on social media. You had 9 Pro Bowlers, and you got 8 of them returning, and you brought a Pro Bowler in Eric Kendricks in. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the same roster as it was last year. Little mix and match here and there. What are we upset about Tony Pollard, guys? We upset? We upset at 4.0 yards a game and 100-yard games the entire season. I don't think we're upset about that. So, outside of Tyron Smith, I'm not too upset about losing anybody this year in free agency. And I'm very happy with the draft. And I think that this roster is good to go. It's a playoff roster. Anything can happen. But you can't have your entire quarterback room on their last year of their contracts. That's insane. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do. Cat sighting. Maybe they do sign Dak, during training camp or during the preseason. But as the season goes on, it kind of gets less and less likely, I would think. But man,
I think it's all about preseason. It's going to be all about that preseason. That's why it's going to be worth watching, man. I hope they televise. What do we got? Three preseason games now, or they cut it to? They didn't cut it to 2. Did
Only
they?
3.
About cutting it to
no,
2,
we got 3. We got 3.
3. Okay. I think that's a small sample size, but if Trey Lance plays the majority, all 3 of those games, we'll see what we need to see.
Yeah, and I also think training camp is going to be huge too. So, only time will tell. But yeah, like you said, I wouldn't.
Dallas,
for some reason,
you're freezing up. You're freezing up like there's no tomorrow, man. I can't. We're not making out much of what you're saying, and your screen's completely frozen. So
really,
pay your internet bill or something. Yeah, there he's back. He's back. All right. He's back. Let's roll.
I've been good. My internet bill is paid. Thank you to all of our subscribers. They pay for my internet bill, so I had nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I don't consider Dak to be injury prone either. I'm just looking here, 2016 through 2019, that's 4 full seasons with no injury. He played all 16 games, and then the 2020 season is when he went down bad with that ankle and foot injury against the Giants. Next season, he comes back in 2021 and misses 1 game. As you were talking about earlier, he got hurt during that Patriots game. 2022, he dealt with that broken hand issue after the opening game against Tampa Bay. So he missed 5 games in 2022.
Was it the
thumb?
The thumb, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so he missed 5 games in that season because he only played 12. That's when they instituted the 17-game season, I believe, back in 2021. When did they move to 17 games? Is that 21?
Seems like it was just a couple seasons ago, but they might.
And then he played a full season. Then he played a full season last year, so there's not a ton to worry about. I mean, you look at some of the other major quarterbacks around the league, Joe Burrow, especially that's the first who comes to mind when you talk about Aaron Rodgers missing a lot of time, always kind of been a little injury prone. I don't put Dak in that same category, but we'll see. I mean, it is a little concerning though that means he must have hurt his ankle or foot during some kind of practice or workout. I mean, because there's nothing going on right now. So
So the official text message from Dak. Okay, the cat is not happy that we're doing this podcast, and she just knocked over the whole thing. She is a Carolina Panthers fan, so she's been kind of acting up lately since they're on the schedule. But lost my train of thought there. Oh, the official Dak texted one of the beat reporters or whatever, NFL guys, and that was breaking earlier today or late last night. Is actually a saltwater deep sea fishing issue that and you can look this up, and I did. Some people have a negative reaction to saltwater exposure, and his ankle swelled up. That's what he's saying. Never ever in my life am I going to call Dak Prescott a liar. He's a good man, and he, NFL Man of the Year for a reason. But man, I don't buy it. I don't buy that one.
That's weird.
Now. Just tell me you were in the weight room and you pushed it too hard, and you're just wearing a boot for a day because it was sore. Just tell me that. That's all I need to hear. You start talking about salt water, I'm like, man, Is your ankle that sensitive? Gosh, I hope not. But it's a thing, man. I looked it up. It's not complete BS. It does happen to some people. And he's like you said, this is the off season, so makes sense. The man's out deep sea fishing. What the picture of him in the boot looked like he was walking on a dock, so they must be somewhere near the ocean. So it kind of all adds up. We'll see. I mean, like you said, you heard he's out of the boot already. I'm just going to blow this whole thing off. Everything's fine and move forward. But the only thing I will say is you got to remember the amount of hype that surrounds America's team, the amount of criticism that they get, the amount of publicity they get, the Stephen A. Smiths and the Skip Baylesses are just chomping at the bit for something like this. What the hell are you going outside with a boot on for? You stay in your damn house for a day or two. Don't let anybody film you. And when your foot's better, take the boot off and then go outside. You got to assume when you're a superstar and you're an athlete or a movie star or whatever, that there's always a camera on you. You walk outside your house, somebody's filming you, right? Mm-hmm. Cell phone, boom, I push a button, I'm filming you instantly. So why are you outside with a boot on, Dak? You can't do that, man. That's the only thing I was upset about it. You're just giving the haters fuel to the fire. And it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look when you're in a contract negotiation to come outside your house with a boot on your ankle. That's just not smart. Sorry, Dak. I love you, brother, but call me next time before you do something like that, and I'll let you know that that's not a good idea.
Should be good bargaining chip for Jerry Jones, though. He's probably foaming at the mouth when he saw that picture. So
exactly, it's a bad situation for Dak. I mean, there's nothing that you could say positive about that for his contract. I mean, it's just salt water, dude. You sensitive, so sensitive, salt water, your ankle's going to swell up. I mean, I don't like the sounds of that. I don't like the sounds of that at all.
I don't buy it, man.
I
don't buy that.
That's a tough one to even buy. Really, I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird. To the point where you throw a boot on and walk around in public like that. I don't know. The whole situation is very odd. It's very odd.
Very, very.
But
that's our off season, right? If we could sum up our off season in one 5-second clip, it's Dak Prescott mysteriously walking on a dock with a boot on. That's our off season, guys.
Our guys can't even go on, vacation without getting hurt. So here we are. Moving right along on the Dak Prescott thing, though. I mean, like I said, he's not necessarily injury prone, but I hope it's nothing serious, and hopefully it is just a saltwater injury, and he'll be fine when he gets back home. But if his ankle is acting up, I mean, this is a season I'd be a little worried about it, because when you talk about a quarterback getting injured, it's kind of the perfect storm. You have a couple rookies potentially starting on your offensive line. You have the worst rated run game in the NFL, so you might be passing a ton, and you got a rookie offensive line out there. Potentially a lot of pressure on Dak. If there's a year to see Dak scramble quite a bit, I would think this would be the year. So I really hope he stays healthy. But if this ankle thing, lingers into training camp and he's limited snaps and there's, some buzz around, is Dak hurt? It's going to start to concern me at some point, because like I said, this is the year that you kind of worry about it with the situation of the offensive line and the run game. But like we talked about last podcast, like hopefully the run game comes around. We got a lot of hungry running backs, I guess you could say. That's a pun for Zeke because he likes to eat. But we'll see. Maybe the run game will be okay and we won't have to stress it. But, man, I don't know. This could be the year that you worry. And like we said, I would like to see Dak move around in the pocket more and scramble more. But if he's going to be dealing with some kind of ankle injury, foot injury coming the season, and that's something he can't do, then that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is mysterious, and it's just a bad look, and gives us something to talk about. But we got enough negative stuff to talk about, so let's not let that happen again, Dak. First of all, get better. Whatever's going on, get better. And if it is salt water, don't go deep sea fishing again until you retire, bro. You want to retire and your ankles can swell up and you can get fat, and we don't care. But right now, stay out of the salt water And if you do go in the salt water, don't come outside with the boot on again. Come on, man.
Yeah, and Dak was in the news not just for his injury recently, but I've seen this around, and I figured we'd bring it up on the show today. Cam Newton, of all people,
Mm-hmm.
the world famous Cam Newton. Yeah, who? Exactly. He was on Keyshawn Johnson's podcast a few days ago talking about quarterbacks in the NFL. He had some high praise for Dak Prescott. Basically, what they did was they brought up last 50 starts. They brought up Dak Prescott's stats and another quarterback stats, and they let the host or whoever it was guess who the other quarterback was. Well, Dak was beating this guy in stats for the last 50 starts, and that quarterback ended up being Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen here if you can see my shared screen.
I can. Yeah.
As you can see, last 50 starts for Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott doesn't have quite the wins and loss record that Patrick Mahomes has. They have the same amount of passing touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes has one more interception than Dak. Dak has a better pass rating at 101.3 compared to Patrick Mahomes' 98.9. He has 0.1 more yards per attempt and a 2% higher completion percentage. So comparing these two quarterbacks side by side, but obviously you have Patrick Mahomes, 2 Super Bowls as opposed to how does he have 2 or 3?
Three total.
Yeah, so
I gotta get
Cowboy
my
Reg
glasses on here and take a look here.
Yeah, so
I have a hard time believing this shit. This guy is outplaying Patrick Mahomes. Last 50 starts. So are they saying that's postseason as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the thing about Dak's postseason stats is they're not bad.
They're good.
They're good. Unfortunately, a lot of that is, not a lot of it, but a few of them are, blowouts against us. And then he'll toss 3 or 4 touchdowns in the second half because we were down 30. But there's games like Tampa Bay where he arguably played the greatest playoff game of any quarterback in NFL history. He had a perfect or near perfect passer rating, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions against, the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers in 2022, I believe. So, yeah, he's put up some good stats in the postseason. He puts up great stats in the regular season. It's just the ill-advised turnovers in those big games that haunt us as fans. But we still love him and we still want him to play. We still want him back because we know he's the best option. But these stats are great, man. Good research on that. It's amazing. I believe that Dak's agent will bring that to the table, and he lays it down on the table and he says, this is how he lines up with Patrick Mahomes. And I believe Jerry then reaches down into his briefcase and he lays down a picture of Dak in the boot on the dock and says, okay, we got a team-friendly deal now.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it just shows you how, like we said, I mean, I think you're really ignorant to come and say that there's all these people out there that say Dak Prescott sucks, he's trash, he's ass, whatever you want to say. I mean, that's just ignorant. You don't know football. The one thing you could say is, yes, he has not had postseason success, but you have to look deeper than that, and you have to look at the team's how the team played in those playoff losses. And I think what you see is that in all of his playoff losses, the defense has played terrible. They've allowed a lot of points, and he's had to play from behind, and it's just not great. And obviously recency bias. We look at this Green Bay Packers game from last year, and I get that Dak had the pick 6, but they were already down 21. I mean,
no, I think it was 14-0 when he threw the pick 6, but it's the same point. Yeah, it's tough, man. I was very emotional after that game, and I did say I might have said a few things about Dak after that game, but when you really, like you said, when you really analyze that game, the defense and the saboteur Dan Quinn is more at fault than Dak for certain. There's no doubt about that when you dissect that game. I mean, we kicked the ball off. I'm celebrating. We kicked the ball off, and we watched Jordan Love march down the field like we had never seen anything like it. We were playing prevent defense in the first series. So, yeah, man, that's not Dak's. That's not on Dak, you know. And then you got to go out there and play perfect. You got to play perfect, and you can't play perfect. And CD drops a ball. You know, Dak throws a pick six. And it all starts with the hole the defense dug you in. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so I just bring that up to say, regardless of what happens this season, when we look to re-sign Dak Prescott either during this season, this offseason, or into next offseason, when it comes to free agent quarterbacks, I mean, he's going to be the best option you can look at, and his stats prove that. So, I mean, if you're a numbers guy, Dak doesn't really get much better than any other quarterback you can find out there. So, I mean, it is what it is. You got to find. I don't think Dak is the reason to blame this team for their playoff woes. But we're gonna move on if that's all right with you. Talk about a player that might potentially be the downfall of the Dallas Cowboys next year and in the following years. Let's talk about Micah Parsons.
Downfall? Why do you be a downfall?
It's not his play. It's his off-field shenanigans have struck again. And this time
we might have different opinions on this because I know where you're going with this. So bring it on.
All right, so we're going to talk about the beef between Malik Hooker and Micah Parsons.
I know beef.
Okay. Is that what you expected me to bring up, right?
Yeah, that's 100%.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you the floor here, Cowboy Rich. Break it down for us. What happened? Why is it nothing to worry about?
I mean, the only reason I'll tell you there's nothing to worry about is because they've already both publicly said that they've settled this. Yeah. Malik Hooker goes on a podcast and criticizes Micah Parsons for having a podcast. First of all, I mean, you can't get any more hypocritical than that. So right out of the gate, it's hypocrisy city. He criticizes Micah. He says, shouldn't we be focused on the run game? You know, brings up the run game and not a podcast. Well, first of all, it's the off season. Micah could go, podcast every day. We don't care. Nobody works harder in the weight room. We see it, and the proof is in the pudding. Nobody works harder than him on his physical fitness and weight room. He does his podcast on the day off. Each week, the Cowboys are given a day off. That's the day he does his podcast. What's the problem? So he responded. He said, I just, basically, I wish Malik would have came to me. I've heard and learned since that their lockers are right next to each other and they're good friends. That may be the problem. He may have been kind of jabbing at his buddy a little bit, but they both kind of come public now and said that everything's fine. But I'll let you explain why it's an issue, and I won't completely disagree with you. If you gave me a choice right now, if I had the power to cancel his podcast forever or let him do it, I'm going to cancel it because I want him completely focused on his day off, on the defense, whether he's watching film, studying, or talking to people on the defense. Even on your day off, you're a professional athlete. I expect that from you in the season, not a podcast. But he's got every right to do it. It's his day off. I mean, you see it all the time, man. You turn on Skip Bayless and he's got a player on, or Stephen A. got a player on,
It could be worse. I mean, he could be,
guys have their,
he's caught at the strip club or something on his day off. I mean, I don't know.
Come on, man.
Worse things to be doing than being on a podcast, right?
He's not saying anything controversial on the podcast. So usually talking sports and goofing around. He's not in the news for, being a tinfoil hat conspiracy guy like Aaron Rodgers. Whenever he gets on a podcast, he talks about smoking mushrooms and talking to Buddha. I mean, Micah's talking about sports and stuff. So at the end of the day, Malik, that was a bad move by Malik too. I mean, he could text Micah I mean, these guys know each other. They're family. They're buddies. He could text Micah. They could have worked that out. He didn't need to do that on a podcast, criticizing a guy for having a podcast. I mean, right there, all credibility was lost right out of the gate.
Yeah, so here's what happened. I'm going to read you the report, and then I'm going to break it down. But I thought that was a good little breakdown there from Cowboy Rich. Yeah, there is some hypocrisy there from Malik Hooker. So Malik Hooker
No
appeared
notes
on
for me, guys. It's all in here for me. No
Yeah.
notes, baby.
It's all those
That's why I get shit.
mushrooms.
That's why I get shit wrong all the time too. Right. I smoked
yeah.
them mushrooms before. I got them Aaron Rodgers mushrooms before the show. And guys, I can talk to dead people, and I could see stats. I got stats.
It's amazing. So Hooker appealed on the Keyshawn Johnson, a lot of Keyshawn Johnson podcast highlights, Cowboys Nation, recently, and he spoke about Parsons' podcast and how he thinks it might be a distraction. Quote by Malik Hooker here: "My advice for Micah would be just make sure we're all right, because if we're at work and the run game's terrible, but you're doing a podcast every week and you know the run game is terrible, then what are you really caring about? Are you caring about the crowd that was watching the podcast? Or are you caring about the success of our team and the Super Bowl that we are trying to reach?" End quote. And then, so I don't really, is he talking about the Dallas Cowboys run game or stopping the run game?
He definitely worded it wrong, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And he's talking about our inability to stop the run. And
yeah,
that sure in the hell isn't Micah Parsons' fault. Freaking Dan Quinn lines him up on the edge and tells him run towards the quarterback every play, and the other guys tackle him. But that's another story. But
true that
he's not at fault. In fact, every time I've seen him, have a runner come his way, I've seen him make one-handed tackles or throw the guy to the ground like a freaking monster. So, Hooker, you were a little bit out of line by doing this. It was a little bit underhanded, not a good move, not being a team player there, buddy. I don't like any of that. So I told you we'd have a little different take. I blame Hooker more than I blame Parsons, even though I don't 100% agree with this whole podcast thing. But go on. I want to hear.
No, I just want to say, I just want to close this out by talking about Micah Parsons' tweet at Malik Hooker after he heard this. Quote by Micah here: "Just wish you said this to me, but instead on some podcast, and you got my number, fam. And you're my locker
There
mate.
It is.
So you could have said this any day, and you do realize I shoot the podcast on our off day. Why ain't we talking about everyone's preparations and focus?" So yeah, basically, like you said, Cowboy Reg, Parsons coming back. He deleted this tweet that he originally had at Malik Hooker, but just said, "Hey man, like you could have said this to my face, or we could have talked about this on camera." But yeah,
he probably deleted it, and then he probably freaking texted it to him. That sounds like a perfect text. "Hey man, why didn't you come to me? You got my number, bro." So, I mean,
yeah. So
yeah,
look,
perfect.
I'm not gonna say that I wasn't taking Malik Hooker's side. I know I led with a little dig at Micah Parsons here, but all I'm trying to say is that Micah continues to make headlines in the news when there's no reason to be headlines in the news, and he brings it on himself. And whether it's a good thing or bad thing, I mean, time will tell. But like we said before, he likes to be in the spotlight. He obviously likes to hear himself. I don't want to say he likes to hear himself talk, 'cause that's kind of a diss, but I mean that. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like he obviously does not mind being in the spotlight whatsoever, and he plays for the Dallas Cowboys.
No,
he's the most popular guy on the Dallas Cowboys.
He's creating a brand, right?
Like I said,
he wants. It all goes together. The podcast is going to be. I'm sure he's going to have a shoe or whatever. They all tie together. And I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but you see the Michael Jordan symbol on everything, right? It's not just a shoe. It's on everything. So that's something that Micah, I think, dreams of. I think he's got that business mind, that creative mind, and he wants to do other things. But I think he knows, I hope he knows, that the only reason he's capable of doing all these other things is because he's good at football. That's where we know him from, and that's how he got in the spotlight. So Hooker's right a little bit that make sure you handle that first. But I think Micah, last I checked, when he's on the field, he does a pretty dang good job. And he plays hurt, and he doesn't want to come out of the game. He gets mad when they want to take him out of the game. Even when it was preseason, he's mad Quinn took him out of the game. So I'm good with him on the field. I understand the whole thing. I think he's just creating a brand for himself. He's probably going to end up making more money than anybody on that team at the end of his career if he succeeds in creating a brand. So I think what some of the stuff he says are controversial because he wants more attention to build his brand. So it kind of makes sense. Not that I agree with it all, but it makes sense.
All I'm going to say is we talked a few weeks ago about him coming out and saying, I want to be a leader on this defense. This is when he was – it's just no matter what he does. He takes time out. You know, he's not at OTAs and then – or he's not on he wasn't at OTAs, but he's still in the building. Then he's quoted saying, like, I want to be a leader on this team. But, like, his actions to me don't follow that. Like, if you want to be a leader, you say the right things on social media. And I just don't think he can be the leader on the defense and then continue to have this like podcast because like too much stuff comes out. Like he's way too honest, honestly. Like that's the worst part is like he's way too honest. We talked about that a few weeks ago in one of his press conferences, talking about Mike Zimmer saying like, oh, I haven't spoken like 10 words. So like he's almost too straightforward and too honest of a guy to be like the leader on this defense, because when you're that honest and straightforward with the media, like you just get spun out of control and there's so much like drama surrounding you. We got a question here from Shots from the Sideline. Do you think that the Dallas Cowboys will try to re-sign Dak, Lamb, and Parsons after this season? Yeah, I do. I think Lamb, needs to obviously be re-signed before training camp or during training camp because he's already kind of holding out. So he's already looking for his contract extension. And yeah, I think they definitely, unless Dak like goes down and has a bad injury this year or really performs extremely poorly and Trey Lance comes in the game, like comes in and starts playing good football, like they might move on from Dak. I think he's I would say Dak's at least, I don't know if I want to say that. But yes, I think all three end up getting signed at this point. If you were to tell me pick two, I pick Dak and CeeDee Lamb. I don't know about Micah moving forward. That's just me. That's a personal thing. But I think all three will be signed.
Micah's got 2 years. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. Micah's got 2 years. So I think the media created this Micah holdout rumor, but Micah, he didn't hold out. He was there, he was there for some of the OTA stuff even. So he's not holding out. He wants to be re-signed, but you don't have a lot of leverage with two years left on your contract coming on a rookie contract. So I think they'll put that one aside. And CeeDee Lamb is urgent. There is no more of an urgent situation in Dallas than signing CeeDee Lamb tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. I mean, it's urgent at this point. He is your offense. He is your franchise. He had 1,750 yards receiving for your team. He cannot be on the bench week one. He cannot be out of training camp. He's got to be there. And I don't normally say this because I'm a pretty conservative guy when it comes to salaries. You got to pay him whatever he wants. And if this is a rebuild, if we're looking at a rebuild, you build around him. He's young and he's freaking good. He's a freak. He put up 1,750. Hello. And he didn't do shit the first 5-6 weeks. He had like 1,100 yards in the second half of the season. The guy's putting up video game numbers. Pay him. You have to pay him. And if you pay him so much you can't pay the other two, you paid the right guy. There's no one better on that team. He's it.
Yeah. Lamb's the one you have to get done because it's like you said, Cowboy Reg, like this is the guy that you're And that's just kind of how the
Yep.
contracts work out. Like, this is a guy, well, he still needs to play this year because he's still under contract, but obviously he's going to continue to sit out until he gets restructured.
Yeah, and
And
he's about
Lee,
to get fined $100,000, $100,000 per practice. So
yeah,
they
it's a
got
lot
to
of
get
money.
this deal done, because
It's a
if
lot of
they
fucking
start
money.
fining him $100,000 per practice, 5 or 6 practices in, I mean, he's going to be asking for more money. I got to pay this.
Yeah.
You just took this away from me. So it gets out of control. And Dak is already playing, and I would love to see him extended, but he's playing and Parsons is playing. Neither one of those guys are holding out. So
Right.
the answer is Lamb. He's the one that's going to hold out. So you pay him, and all three of them are back. And then you got the whole season to deal with Parsons. He's still on contract. But at some point, I think you lose the right to negotiate with Dak, correct? I mean, if he's in the last year of his contract, he's about to be a free agent. I don't think they can negotiate with him past week whatever. There's something, maybe that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I'd have to look into the details of his contract. But
Okay.
yeah, I think Lamb's the first one you have to get done, and time will tell on Dak and Parsons. But the only issue here is like what they're projected to make, I believe, is over 25-30% of the team's overall salary cap, which has been done like 3 times before in NFL history, and each of those teams ended up with a losing record. So I think you have to be very careful with signing these guys. And luckily, if you can, this is why we were screaming for a Dak deal back in February, because it's like if you could front, or you could put his money on the back end, then there's a lot of things that could be done with the salary cap. I still think they'll try something, but man, like if you're not careful with these guys when it comes to salary cap, like they're going to be taking a huge hit next year. And how do you build a team around that? That's what's going to be tough.
That would be the rebuild, and that's the thing.
So
Whether you
I think
want
Dak's
to rebuild
the
or
big
not.
question here. Dak's a big question here. I don't think that I give Parsons a lot of crap, but like he's a generational type talent. I worry about his off-field stuff, and I just think that the money that he's asking for at the position that he plays, I'm not sure is worth that much money in the end. But when it comes to the type of production that Lamb has and how much quarterbacks mean to this league right now that we've seen, like I think those are the 2 guys that you absolutely have to sign. I think I really hope all 3 guys end up coming back, but I don't know if that's going to be possible, or if it is, I don't know how good of a team we're going to have. It's tricky. I wouldn't, as much shit as we give the front office, I want to be in their position right now. It's a really tough job. So appreciate your question. Shouts to the sideline. That's solid.
Solid
Go ahead.
question. Yeah, you're speaking the gospel there, because we do give the front office a lot of shit, and I still will, because they still should have at least had one of these guys signed by now.
Yeah,
I mean, react and
inexcusable to have no one signed at this point.
Inexcusable. But when you tell me that it's only been done, this percentage of salary cap that they would take has only been done 3 times, and all 3 times they have losing records. I guarantee you that Stephen Jones knows that stat. I guarantee he knows that stat, and he's cap boy for a reason. He loves the numbers. He's saying, statistically, we can't do this, Jerry, because you can say whatever you want about Jerry. Jerry is always overpaid. Like he falls in love with somebody and he overpays them. Now that
because that money
is taking Stephen takes the wheel, and he's like, "Oh no, Dad, we can't do that because statistically this might happen." I'm surprised that the Rams weren't, hadn't that one year that they went all in and won the Super Bowl. I'm surprised that's not a stat. You said it, that the 3 times it's happened that they had losing records. So obviously the Rams didn't take that much, but they took so much that their team just fell apart the following year. They won the Super Bowl, and then they were terrible.
That's the most recent example was the Rams with when they had Goff, they had Cooper Kupp, and what's the defensive end's name? Shit, I should not forget this.
Darnold. Didn't they have Darnold?
Yeah, sorry,
Sam
Aaron
Darnold?
Donald. So
Aaron Darnold.
no,
It's not
Aaron
Sam
Donald.
Darnold.
Yeah,
Sam Darnold, he's not going to get you to the Super Bowl, but Aaron Donald would, yeah. That
yeah.
was
So
him.
those three guys were taken up over like next. Let me make note of it. I'm going to bring it up in next podcast. I had the exact stat, but it's something like that. You got three players over 25 or of 30% of your overall cap space. All those teams ended up with pretty bad records. They all missed the playoffs. So not a situation you necessarily want to be in if you're the Dallas Cowboys. We got our boy Hot Take City back this week saying Lamb needs to be paid for sure. Yep, pretty spot on. That's what we just broke down. Appreciate you joining us again, Hot Take City. Always here with the hot takes, always good stuff. So, I mean, it's going to be tough moving forward. But one other thing, talking about the Micah Parsons situation and is he a leader on this team? I think the overall leader on this defense going into next year would be Demarcus Lawrence. And we have some buzz around Demarcus Lawrence. A lot of people saying that he should potential trade target for the Dallas Cowboys going into this year, because if they did, they could free up about $10 million in cap space. This was coming from Pro Football Focus, who I'm a fan of and most stuff, but I didn't like this one. I thought this was a bad take. I don't know why you would trade Demarcus Lawrence.
Hot Take City, if you're still out there, tell us if that's a hot take. I love D-Law, man. He's been one of my favorites. I just love the way he plays violent, and he's persistent, and he's a team player, and he's strong, and he's quick, and he bats balls down. He does it all. No, I'm not trading him, man. You kidding me? You know, I said it earlier. We got a lot of Pro Bowlers coming back, and I've said it in previous podcasts. I'm concerned with our depth. So how can we, somehow create depth and hope nobody gets hurt, and then trade away one of our best defensive players we've had in the past 5 to 10 years? I don't know how you would trade him away and then say we have good depth next year. There's no way.
Yeah, Hot Take City said I'm not trading D-Law for anything. I agree with that. He's
That's
really
a hot take. See,
I mean, coming into next year, he
take.
is the most veteran and proven defensive player that the Dallas Cowboys have. It's just as simple as that. I mean, he's been around since the Tony Romo era, making plays, man. Like you just can't get rid of this guy. So, I mean,
you've seen it, and you see him walking.
He's the vocal leader
without his uniform on. You ever see him walk around without his uniform on? He looks like he's like 19. He looks so young and he's so fit. And I'm like, this dude's been around since, the Romo era, and he's still playing like, his second year in the league. So no, I don't care what his age is. Look at the way he moves and the way he carries himself. I'm not trading him for anything. That was a hot take. Hot Take knows it. You can't trade.
No, you can't. And Hot Take City said also, if I'm Dak, I'm taking a pay cut so Parson and Lamb can get paid and Jones can bring in more help. We really hope that that's the case. I think Dak
Tom Brady, if you're out there, Tom Brady.
Yeah, talk some sense into Dak Prescott, man. Because if you ask me, I think Dak was overpaid in his last contract. I think this is a contract you look to. Where is he going to go, like, realistically this offseason? Like, who's going to have the capability to pay him
the Steelers
over what he's worth but he's not going to move into the Steelers. They're not going to win the Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. They're not going to go through the AFC.
I'm not saying that, but hey, people are already talking about it. That would be the destination that makes the most sense.
I agree with
the money
you
to do it, but
I don't think
that's how I feel. We got to get that deal done. So that's not even an issue. Pittsburgh won't even get to look at him if we get the dang deal done.
Yeah, Hot Take said it's not that he's overpaid. That's market, but you want to win rings. You have to do what you got to do for the team. That's what I'm saying. Like, where is he going to go? Who's going to pay more than Dallas and put him in a situation to win a Super Bowl? That's what I wonder. I don't see the team that can do both those things. Pay him what pay him more than the Dallas Cowboys can, and have a better chance at winning a Super Bowl than the Dallas Cowboys. With those two factors, I don't see a destination that's going to make him want to leave. And like when you have the ability to stay in the same place, he just had a kid, he's probably on the verge of getting married here soon. Like, you would think he's ready to settle down. If you can sign that last contract, that team-friendly deal, 4 or 5 year contract that's going to ride you out into retirement, that's the move, man. If I'm Dak, that's what I'm doing. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's tough.
I agree. I've said it before. You and I agree that was a bad deal that he had last time, and that's what I'm saying, man. When Jerry was calling the shots, he's paying guys. This is Stephen Jones calling the shots now. That's what we're seeing. But yeah, Dak, come on, man. Tom Brady did it. If you believe in this team, and you believe that what happened last year was a fluke, and you believe in this team, then that would make the most sense. I'm going to structure my contract to benefit these guys. And you know who's getting the most money in endorsements is Dak Prescott. You're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I buy yogurt, and his face is on the yogurt. I'm like, he's
Chobani,
everywhere.
baby. Chobani.
Yeah, and he signed with Jordan. He's got him. He's partners with Jordan. He's making so much money off the field that even a Micah Parsons can't. Even a CD Lamb can't. You're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. That brings a lot of money to the table. How about we look at that money and say, I'm going to take some of that off the contract. I'm going to take that for the team. I'm getting that much money anyways, right? He's signed endorsement deals. They pay him. He gets hurt. He's still getting paid by them. So take one for the team, Dak. Let's 40. How about 40, man? Is it embarrassing to make $40 million a year? If you take 40, that's a game changer. We'd sign all three guys right now if Dak took if he took a Dan Jones contract, if he took one of them $40 million contracts that we thought was too much, but we'd love to have Dak on that. We sign everybody.
Yeah,
man. We'd be bringing guys in because
that's the thing. I think that's what all three of them have to look at, but I don't think
the other two have to look at that.
Lamb and Micah are not looking, and they're very young still, so they're looking to make their big contract. Where I think Dak has already been paid his big contract. I'm not saying he's not going to make more than he did last time. Obviously, he's going to make more, but percentage-wise, salary cap percentage-wise, this should be easier on the cap, than his last one was. That's all.
You would hope. I would hope,
but we're going to be talking about this all off season. We'll see. Time will tell. You never know when some of these things are going to get figured out. But we talked about Dak a lot today. We've covered a lot of subjects. Like every time we hop on this podcast in the off season, we're like, what are we going to talk about? But there's still plenty to talk about. I want to finish off today's episode with some Hot Take City. And one more. Well, DJ will be out this year anyway, so it's only $80 million. Thank God, LMAO. But Dak is never going to win it if he keeps taking big contracts. Exactly. I mean, that's the facts at the end of the day. So
it's a hot take.
It's a hot take. Appreciate your input, Hot Take City. We always love having you hop on the podcast. Always bringing up some good content there. And Hot Take might be interested in this too. I want to bring up some NFL odds going into this season, since we're still very much in the off season and things will change once training camp starts and preseason starts. But I want to take a look at some of the odds to win the Super Bowl, win the division, and some odds have come out for Week 1, Cleveland Browns versus Dallas Cowboys. So if it's okay with you, Cowboy Reg, I want to go over some of that stuff and let's let our listeners know what is a smart bet. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably dabbled in a little bit of sports gambling. It's okay. You can tell me. I'm a sports gambler too. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as, call 1-800-GAMBLER if it's gone too far. But if you just, throw a little money here and there and look to make some spending money, there's nothing wrong with that. It makes it interesting. So let's talk about first the NFL odds to win the Super Bowl. So our top two teams here are Kansas City Chiefs to three-peat and the 49ers. So Kansas City is plus 550 as the overall favorite, and the San Francisco 49ers plus 600. Down to the Cowboys are plus 7. This is according to DraftKings. The Dallas Cowboys are plus 1,700 to win the Super Bowl. So 17-1 to win the Super Bowl next year. $100 would cash you $1,700. The only thing I'm looking at here is they have the same odds to win the Super Bowl as the Eagles do. Some teams that have better odds that I think are interesting are the Houston Texans, the Bengals, the Lions, and the Bills.
Yeah, I thought that the Bills, correct me if I'm wrong, have had some serious departures from their roster. So I don't know if they're bringing a stronger team to the table this year, and they struggled getting into the playoffs last year, and they didn't go far. So I don't know about that one. I can see where a healthy Joe Burrow puts Bengals back in the mix. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, they're plus 1,300. Yep.
Yeah, I'm if he's healthy, but if I'm a gambler, I have questions, right? Are you putting money on the Bengals? Well, can you tell me if Joe Burrow's playing or not? Nobody can. So I might have a problem with those two. Other than that, I don't have a problem with it, and I wish that they had Dallas at the 32nd team. I don't want them. I don't want to go into that season with that expectation.
Yeah, I think they're pretty. I don't think they're spot on here. I have some disagreements, but like Hot Take City says, get the 49ers out of there. I agree with that, but he said it's going to be Green Bay or Lions from the NFC. Man, I don't know about that at all. I am not in love with either one of those teams winning the NFC next year. I think there's going to be. I think that Green Bay is going to have a little bit of a slump going into next year with how they overperformed this year. That's just my take. And I think the same is going to go for Detroit. We've talked about it a lot, but I think Detroit was a surprise team this year. No pressure on them. Dan Gamble gets to do whatever he wants.
No,
I mean,
they're not. I don't see that. In fact, I've repeatedly, and I'll stand by this, I picked the Green Bay Packers to win that division. I don't think Detroit will even win their division this year. But having said that, I do see why they have them up there. I see the stats tell you put them up there. The history of Detroit football says don't bet on Detroit. And like you said, you've played without the Browns did this. Remember when the Browns made the playoffs finally, a decade ago or so, and their roster just one by one fell apart and they were back to the bottom again. So you can't count on one season to carry over to the next. You've got to seize those opportunities. And the Lions blew the NFC Championship game. They had an opportunity to be in the Super Bowl. That might be their last chance for a lifetime. You don't know. It's been 60 years to get to one. To get to one Super Bowl, it's been 60 years and they haven't done it. So I don't know. I wouldn't bet on them either. So yeah, maybe I can make sense of their list, but I'm not betting based on that list. No.
Yeah, I guess, and we're still talking about Super Bowl odds here, but like Hot Take City says, they're both top 5 teams. No, I don't think so, man. I don't know. I mean, the NFC's wide open.
The stats tell you, and the roster tells you that Detroit is definitely a top 5 team. Everything tells you that. But Green Bay was an overachiever last year. Are they going to be able to do that again? I'm still thinking they can win that division, but I think the 49ers are the team to beat. We dislike them more than anybody.
Until proven wrong, yeah.
But what tells you that they won't be back? Ayuk? Who? He doesn't do anything for them. Debo's the man, right? I mean, McCaffrey's the man. Those guys are playing. They're probably going to be back in the Super Bowl, and it pains me to say that.
I just think the NFC is kind of wide open, but yeah, I guess. I mean, so I guess you have to say Detroit's. If they're top 5 team, you got to say they're the best team in the NFC. Because I look at the AFC with Joe Burrow back in the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills, I think those are all better football teams than the Detroit Lions, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're going to be
I
right
think
in the
I don't know,
in the
man.
end,
I think
but I still think
I
that
get what you're saying.
there's no reason to look at that roster with everybody coming back with even more experience. And as far as they went last year, they went to NFC Championship. So you got everybody coming back. You got to say they're the favorites to get there again. San Francisco and them. But the history of Detroit and the pressure that you're talking about that they'll have for the first time in franchise history, the public in Detroit expects them to be in the Super Bowl. They've never had that pressure before. Even when, and I'm old enough to live through the Barry Sanders era. They never thought they were going to the Super Bowl with Barry Sanders. Never. They knew that team wasn't good. I mean, they'd go 9-7 in a good year with Barry. I mean, this is the first time in franchise history they expect to be in the Super Bowl, and that's too much pressure. We know best. The Dallas Cowboys know about pressure. Take advice from us. We know what choking looks like. They're probably going to choke this year. I wouldn't bet on Detroit.
I'm just going to go out and say it. Detroit's not making the NFC Championship game this year.
I agree. They're not.
Book it.
It may be the Packers, but it's not going to be Detroit.
This is still, you can't take one season and define an entire franchise. Like, you can't do it, man. And like, you got to realize that they played Baker Mayfield to get to the NFC Championship game. The only good team.
That's true.
Nobody besides and I'm not Hot Take City. I'm not saying the Cowboys are going to make the NFC Championship game. I haven't said that, but he said nobody besides Cowboys.
I can't read Hot Take.
The Cowboys.
Oh no, I never bet on the Cowboys.
I don't either. I'm not. Look, we're just talking about odds
that's
here.
His first cold take of the night. Ice cold. He said,
"Sorry, I had to."
He's out. No. Ice cold take. He just lost his name. We never bet on the Cowboys. Hot take. Never.
I'm not saying. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Cowboys are going to win the NFC next year. But man, I'm not going to sit here with all the football I've watched in my life and say that the Detroit Lions are going to win the NFC next year. They're going to have to prove me otherwise. But I know they have a good roster. But the way that they won games last year, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, the way that they won games last year cannot sustain the style of coaching that Dan Campbell coaches at. That cannot last another season. He's going to have to completely change.
It's like Chip Kelly, man. He's like Chip Kelly. He's trying to.
I have to watch. I have to see them.
Yeah.
You have to see them halfway through the year next year if they are playing responsible type football and they're beating teams soundly. That's one thing. But like if they plan on, but that's the thing that is all everyone's trying to sell you on the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell's like, this is our style of football. It's like that can't last. And it didn't last because you blew your chance last year. They should have been in the Super Bowl, but his coaching blew that game. If he was just if he could just be a little that's what he did. He changed his identity. He started going conservative in the NFC Championship game. So you could already see that he's second guessing himself. So I think there's going to be issues there next year, man. I'm telling you. And there's going to be a surprise team coming out of the NFC. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not saying I'm betting on the Cowboys. I'm just reading you the odds. All right. So the Cowboys are plus 700 to win the NFC next year. So that's 7-1 odds. They're the same as the Eagles and behind Detroit and San Francisco. So they are the third favorite to win the NFC, which is pretty good. Let's talk about the division real quick. The Eagles are the favorite to win the NFC East at plus 100. The Dallas Cowboys are in second at plus 150. Washington Commanders at plus 800 and New York Giants at plus 1,300. So as of now, as you would kind of expect,
poor New York football Giants. Poor Giants.
Terrible. So you got plus 150 to win the division, plus 700 to win the NFC. And sorry, I want to read this one too. The Cowboys' odds to make the playoffs next year are at minus 200. So what is your favorite bet there, Cowboy Reg? If you were a betting man, which I know you like to dabble, would you bet on the Cowboys 17-1 to win the Super Bowl, minus 200 to make the playoffs, plus 150 to win the division, or plus 700 to win the NFC? What would be your bet if I gave you $100?
I'm betting to win the division. I like that.
Yeah.
I understand that it hasn't been done in a decade or longer that someone's repeated as champions, but you guys forget you have such short memories out there. It's amazing. The Eagles were 10-1 and completely collapsed and got absolutely blown out and embarrassed in the playoff in a game they were favored and lost by worse than the Dallas Cowboys did. So how are we betting on them to win anything? I'd say the Commanders would win the division before the Eagles would. The Eagles are bringing out the last year's roster, just replacing a running back who had more production than the guy they brought in. Oh, his name is Barkley. Whatever. Look at his production. I don't see it. I would bet on them to win the division, or the Commanders as a long shot and make some money. But I don't think so.
Plus 800. Those are pretty good odds.
You make some money, but no, they got no shot. The Commanders have no shot. I think the Cowboys will win the division. I do. I take that bet. But I will not bet on the Cowboys, literally. But that's the one I'd recommend you bettors take.
Yeah, plus 150 to win the division is pretty good odds.
Yep.
Comparing, I mean, I look at the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys as neck and neck going into the season. I think it's a kind of a coin flip to win the division. So I'm taking the team with better odds. As a gambler, I'm taking the team with better odds. So I would take the Cowboys in that. But man, I like the out of these bets. Remember, don't take me out of context here. Out of these bets, I like the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC at 7-1. I think they're really. I like the Eagles odds there too, plus 700, because, like you said, is it going to be a repeat of last year's NFC Championship game with the Niners?
Odds,
I mean, the Niners.
Yeah, the odds are no. The odds are they might tell you that both of those teams are favored, but how many times in history have the NFC Championship been a repeat? Okay, Cowboys and Niners did it a couple times. I got to go back a while and think about how many times that's happened, and the odds are it's not going to happen. So there's going to be a surprise team in there. So I see you want to be optimistic and say Cowboys could be that surprise team and win the NFC. That'd be all right with me. But
yeah, man, I think, yeah. So really, Detroit at plus 550, Dallas at plus 700. I think those are good bets. I don't want to bet on San Francisco to repeat. I just think there's something happening in San Francisco there where they can't really quite get over the hump, and they're going to roll out Brock Purdy again next year, and they expect last year was their year to really win the Super Bowl, and they couldn't get it done. So Ayuk moving on, and McCaffrey was healthy all last year. You kind of expect him to. I don't want to wish injury upon a guy, and I don't, but I'm just saying that history shows he might deal with some injuries this year. Same with Saquon. It's just what history says. So I like the Cowboys at plus 7-1 to win the NFC. I think that's good value, as well as honestly the Eagles. I don't want to see it, trust me, but I think that's pretty good odds there. Detroit at plus 550 is not bad. I don't see Detroit doing it, man. I have this bias when it comes to Detroit. I'm sorry. But after that, I mean, Green Bay's plus 800
He's
to win.
still upset about the billboards. He's very upset about the billboards that y'all hung. He can't get over that.
They're a joke.
That's the truth.
It's a joke, man. I mean, it's so typical. It's like every time something early on in the year, I didn't mind the Lions. Like, I thought it was a good story, but they shove it down your throat so much that it's like you have to be happy for Detroit. Like, no, I don't. And then you play them and you realize that these fans are such crybabies. It's like, I hope y'all – I miss when y'all went 0-16. At least you shut the hell up. Like, go sit in the corner, Detroit. Like, you can't
wore bags
come
over
in
their
here.
Heads. Those are the good –
You can't come in here –
when they were walking around with bags over their heads. That was all right.
Come on, man.
They were nice people.
You can't come in here – like, you have one good season. You come in here acting like you're top dog and you can do it at – like, shut up. I'm over them. I'm over him, man. But that's all I got for. Oh, the last thing I was going to say is, let's see here.
But you did cheer for them over the Niners. You did cheer for the Lions over the Niners.
I bet on them over the Niners. I thought they would win that game, and they pissed me off. They pissed me off because I had money on them and they lost. They blew it.
Yeah, it's true.
So opening game odds have been released. Dallas Cowboys at Cleveland Browns on September 8th, Sunday, September 8th. The Dallas Cowboys are currently underdogs at 1 point, so they're +1. But really, the money line pick is almost the same. They have Cleveland at -108, Cowboys at -112. So this is pretty much a pick'em game. Cleveland is currently favored by 1 point at home. What you get that 2.5, 3 point,
and that could change
home.
That could change.
So yeah, that could very much. This is very early, but as of now, the Cowboys would go into Cleveland as very, very tight underdogs, if not really just a coin flip game. So just thought I'd bring that up. I want to keep
fair
looking at these odds as we get closer to opening day because it's going to be interesting what Vegas thinks of the Cowboy season as we get closer. But that's all we got for today.
Now, correct.
Parting shots, Cowboy Reg.
Just real quick clarifying, because you're the gambler expert, not me. The home team usually gets a point as far as Vegas is concerned. So when you talk about a 1 point game, it's even. It's an even game. If the home team's favored by 1, that means they don't know who's going to win, and they're just giving the point to the home team. So I say that's a push. That right now, that's probably accurate. I don't know who's going to win that game right now, but by the time that week rolls around, we'll have a better idea of our roster, what's going on, and same with them, who's hurt, who's not, and that could change one way or the other. We could be 3-point underdogs by then, or we could be favored by then.
Hot Take City says they get 3 normally, so yeah, that's usually
3.
What
I
think of too. So
they're basically saying they think the Cowboys will win the game if it's played on a neutral field. So
yep. They usually get about a field goal advantage at home. So
interesting. Wow, that's a lot of points. I didn't know that. See, you gamblers can educate people like me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Detroit here, opening day against the Rams, they're only 3.5 point favorites. So at home, they got a bit of a pick'em game when it comes to the Rams and Detroit. So, I mean, yikes, Detroit, watch out. Detroit's starting the season 0-1. Panic will ensue.
No, I mean the Rams are there's something to say about them this year. They're going to be contenders. So I do think that's a big game. That's a good game right there. That's a couple heavyweights going at it in the first round.
That's opening day Sunday night.
There you go. Yeah, see, they know. They're going to make some money off that game. They're going to hype that one up.
That's a hot take. So first game of the season next year, Baltimore at Kansas City. Man, that's going to be good. Yeah.
Big time. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that one.
I wish I could go to sleep tonight and wake up in September. It's hot as hell here in Mississippi. We have no football. It's pretty brutal, but we'll get there one show at a time, 1 week at a time. Like
there was actually a football game on today. The Yankees beat the team from Boston 14-4 was the final score. I'm pretty sure that was football because
2 touchdowns and 2 safeties.
Yeah, you couldn't get 14 in baseball. So I'm guessing that was a football game.
The Cubs lost a football score today 7-0. So got the old shutout.
There you go. See, we got a little football going on. We got Chicago. Yeah. They would lose that. They would lose a game 7-0. That's something they would
pretty
do.
Much. To the Angels, who are one of the worst teams I can't say it's not like that's a surprise. The Cubs are one of the worst teams in the MLB, so are the Angels. So here we are. All right, Cowboy Reg. Well, hey, thanks again for listening to another episode of Sons of Star. I hope you had fun with us today. We appreciate all y'all that left us questions and comments Appreciate you being part of the show. And we will see you next time. Have a good night. Happy 4th of July. Go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.